What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing well. My name's Matt, and this is Made with Matt. And today we're going to be doing part one of taking this Figma design and turning it into React Native code. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Open your directory where you're going to be putting the project and type in npx React Native init, and we'll call this one travel app UI. Now we'll jump into the directory we just made, travel app UI. Now we can type ls to make sure we're in there, and I'm going to reopen VS Code in that folder. So the first thing we're going to want to do is get all these images into our project. So to do that, create a new folder called assets, and in here we'll create yet another folder called images, and that's where we're going to drag and drop all our images from Figma. So you can find this Figma file in the link below. And if you make an account with Figma, you'll be able to export it, I believe somewhere at the top here, and then open it yourself to get all the pictures and everything you need. So I'm gonna do that quick. We've got them all here, and you should see that yours will probably have the same naming as mine because I gave them names in Figma for you guys. So now we've got the images. Next thing we'll do, jump back to assets, the assets folder here, create a new folder called data. And in here, we'll put all the data that we're gonna need for these lists. So we have one list here, we have another list here, and another list here. And basically the purpose of putting them in data is just that it makes it easier afterwards to iterate through them. So instead of writing out each component, you just basically make a for loop that goes through each one, and it iterates over it and outputs the same component for each, which makes life a lot easier. So let's start with the discoverData here. So go into the data and create a new file called discoverData.js. And here we'll do const discover data equals, this is going to be an array of data with objects inside. So some fields we're going to need are ID, title, location, image, and then actually we're also going to need a bunch more information because when you click on these, it's going to open this page with all the other info. So we're also going to need the bigger picture, which are the ones down here. Otherwise, if we expand this one, it's going to get all blurry and pixelated. So we need the bigger picture, we need a description, we need all this information, and we also need to know if it's liked or not, so that we know if we fill this in. So let's go do that now. So ID, so we'll call this one discover-1. Title is going to be kayaking in the Tofino Sea. Location, and I'll speed this up so you guys can just take a look at it once it's done, or you could just get it from the source code. So like I said, if you don't feel like copying everything here, since it is a bit long, you could check the link in the description below for the GitHub link and just copy it from the source code. So once you have it copied in, last thing we'll do is export default discover data. So that's discoverable in the rest of the project. So that's the first data complete. The second one is going to be for the activities here. So all we're gonna need is obviously an ID, but then we're gonna need this link to the image and the text, and that's about it. So let's go make a new folder here called activitiesData.js, and we'll call this one activitiesData. Same thing, it's going to be an array of objects. This one's going to have ID, activities1, a title, the first one I believe was kayak, and the image. We'll require the images and then kayak icon.png And by the way, this require, what I'm pretty sure it does is that basically it checks if this image exists. If it doesn't, then it's going to throw an error rather than just not output anything, which is really good when you're developing. So once again, you could find the rest in the source code. I'm going to go copy paste them. Now, as usual, let's export default activities data. Awesome. So the next data we're going to need is going to be, let's see, we'll do the learn more section. So here, these are just cards with a background picture and some text. So they're pretty simple. So let's go here, data, new data, learn more dot, or let's call this learn more data.js, just so it's very clear as to what we're creating here. So learn more data. Once again, array of objects. This one's going to have ID of learn more -1. And we're going to need a title. So first one was snorkeling in Mexico. And then the image require, this is going to be boat beach.png. Once again, you can find the rest in the source code, and I'll go copy paste them. So now let's make sure to export default learn more data. Perfect, and this one's done. So we actually have one last piece of data that we need to add, and it's just these little tabs. We could do these manually, but you know, for example, in the future, if we want to add some really easily, we could just add them in the data instead of typing them out manually. So let's make some data for that. So we'll call this one discover, we'll call it categories. Data, .js, const discover categories data. Once again, array of objects. This one's going to be discover categories 1. Text is all, and I'm just going to repeat that for all 3 of the remaining ones. So let's export this. There we go. Save it. Awesome. So I'm going to close all these data files. And next thing we'll do is we'll add our colors. So create a new folder called colors and a new file in there called colors.js. Now here we'll have const colors, and then once we have this, we'll be able to import it anywhere. So let's say export default colors. So if you've seen my previous videos, you know I always do this. It's just an easier way to access colors, and so that you don't have to type them out manually every time. So if we jump back to our Figma file, we'll see that these are the colors we want. Double click them, get their hex values. So I'm gonna do this really quickly and jump to the complete version. So here they are, and you can find them in the Figma file or in the source code on GitHub. But basically we have gray as seen here, D1, D3. I added this dark gray just in case we might need it for the text, because here it does seem a bit light, but not sure if we're going to use that yet. Then we have our orange, our black, and our white. And the reason I put black and white is just, once again, it's easier to just type out, you know, colors.black instead of 000. And we also have kind of an off black and an off white here. Our colors are good to go. So the next step, we'll do our fonts. So open up assets again, new folder called fonts, and we're going to go over to Google Fonts to get our font. And here we could see that we're using Lato or Lato. I don't know how to pronounce it. But let's type that in. Click it, and we'll download the family of fonts. Save that. Now we're going to drag and drop everything in that zip folder into this folder. Cool, so now we've got them here, but that's not it. If you remember from the previous videos, what we need to do now is create a new file in the root folder. So I'm just trying to get it, there we go, in the root folder called react-native.config.js. And in here, we'll type in module.exports assets. And it's basically saying like, all right, where do I go look for the fonts? And you type in, so assets, fonts, and that's it. And then save that. Now open up your terminal or your console. And what we'll need to do is we'll need to write, we'll need to link everything. So npx react native link, and that's it. It linked successfully. So our fonts are done. So we could close the assets folder. And now what we're going to jump to is navigation. So right before jumping into it, let's see what we need. Let's try to think it through. So basically we have the home page, and the home page has a bottom tab navigator. But when you click one of them, when you click one of these, the cards, then this details page slides over and covers the entire thing, including the tab navigator. So what I'm thinking is we make a stack navigator, and a stack navigator is when things stack up on top of each other and cover the entire page. So we make a stack navigator which has this as a whole with the tab navigator inside of it. And then the details page is another stack or page on top of the stack navigator so that it covers the entire thing here. So just to recap, a stack navigator with a tab navigator inside of it. So let's go to React Native navigation and copy all the commands that we're going to need. Let's get started with this. Now let's do the same with this command here. Great, so let's jump back and we'll need to pod install iOS. Copy that, paste it in. So as they say here, to finalize the installation, copy this and put it at the top of index or App.js. So copy it. Let's go to index.js and put it at the top here. Save that. And we're also going to need to wrap everything in a navigation container. So I'll just wait to do that, and I'll go to the next page. So here, install navigation stack, we'll need that. And we're also going to need the tab navigator once we finish this installation. Now I'm going to look up tab navigator or navigation, perfect. So it's React navigation / bottom tabs, paste that in. Awesome, so the actual navigation libraries are all set up. And one thing we're gonna need for navigation is these icons. So I'm just gonna set up React Native vector icons right away, and then we'll move into actually making the stack screen and the tab navigator. So installation. And here I'll just write npx npx pod install, just like that. Whoops, cd iOS. Now we'll do pod install in here. And this is if you're on Mac. On Windows, I'm not sure what the actual command is for Android, but this sets everything up for iOS simulator. And now let's jump back, make sure we're in the right directory. Perfect. Let's get started with the actual implementation of the stack navigator and tab navigator. So we know we're going to need a couple different pages. So first off, we're going to need the home page, we'll need the details page, and then just to make this tab navigator work properly, we're going to need the, I guess we'll call it liked page, and the profile page. So let's open up a new folder in the root folder called components. In here, let's create a few. First one will say homepage, so home.js. We'll create another one called details.js. Another one liked.js, profile.js. app.js, and I think we should be good with that. So let's start with home. And I've got this little shortcut command to make a Lambda function, and you can download that from the VS Code store. Let me know if you want more details. I can make a whole video about my VS Code setup. So let's do home, and then in here, let's return a view, auto import, nice view, and then text. We'll say home. Now, okay, perfect, it's still there. So I'll save that, copy all of this, paste it in details, and just change home to details. And to do that, by the way, what you saw there, how I, hold on, let me just paste that in. I did F2 and then type in liked, and it changed this one as well. It's pretty cool. And we'll do the same for profile. Perfect. Now let's go back to App.js, and here delete everything that's in App.js, and let's start fresh. So what we'll do, lfrc again, app, and here we'll return a navigation container with a stack navigator. But before we do any of that, let's actually import a couple things. So for now, let's just do view text app.js, save that. All right, so some things that we're gonna need to import are all the different components that we just made. So import home, so I'll just speed through this. We're also going to need everything that lets us do our navigation. So create stack navigator from @react navigation stack. And we're also going to need the tab navigator. So create bottom tab navigator from, let's give me @react native bottom tabs. And above those two, can't forget to import the navigation container from React navigation. Whoops, I think it might be without, oh, it's this one, my bad. Save that, and there we go. So right above app, let's create two constants, one called stack and one called tab. Basically, the stack is going to be create stack navigator. So that's going to be the actual stack navigator, and this one's going to be the bottom navigator. Okay, so now under that, we'll create a new const called tab navigator, which is going to be the container to hold our tab navigator. So it's basically going to be everything that you see in this design is going to be under the tab navigator, including all the different pages. So let's return here and tab.navigator, close that, and then in here we're going to have a tab.screen. We'll have a couple, actually we'll have 3, so one for each: home, liked, and profile. So let's give this a name. Name is equal to home, and the component is going to be home. Now let's copy this, paste it here, here, and yeah, we're good. So this one's going to be, the second one is liked component, and the last one is profile component. Cool. So I'm actually going to boot up our app just so we could see what it looks like as we code it through to make sure we're not making any mistakes. Good, so it's set up and we see already we have an error, and that's basically in the home, details, liked, and profile page. We forgot to bring in text. So let's just do that quick. And we'll do the same in App.js as well. Save that. There we go. So now we see at the top App.js as we're supposed to see, and we're right on track. So as we had said earlier, we'll want this entire tab navigator, which is going to hold this screen, to be inside of a stack screen, so that we could put the details page in that stack screen, or stack navigator, sorry, and then it could stack on top of it. So let's actually build that right now. What we can do is here we'll delete this view and we'll do navigation container. In here we'll add a stack.navigator, and inside let's just add one stack screen, and this one is going to be the tab navigator that we have right here. So let's call it that. So name is equal to, I'll just copy and paste it, so tab navigator, and we'll have the component as tab navigator as well. If we save that, now we could see that our tab navigator is working perfectly because we have these three tabs here: home, liked, and profile, just like we wanted it. So now there's a bit more work to do to the tab navigator before moving on to the stack navigator to get the components looking like we want it and the actual bar looking like we want it. So let's start with the actual bar to make it like we want it. So go into tab navigator, and in here we'll do tab bar options. So we'll do double curly brace to open, and we'll type in style. This is going to be styles dot, and we'll say tab bar, and we haven't actually set up styles yet, so we'll do that next. We're also going to want the active tint color, which is the color of the text and the icon that we'll be adding when it's active, and we'll set that as colors.orange. So we haven't imported that yet, so let's type that in, colors.orange, and I'll go import that now. So import colors from assets, colors. Perfect, so colors.orange, and then you also want inactive tint color, which is going to be colors.gray. Save that. Can't find variable styles, so let's go make that right now. Const styles is equal to style sheet, style sheet, that one, dot create, and we will do tab bar. For now we won't put anything, just so we could save it. There you go. Now you can see it's orange, or if not, it's gray. So the actual style of the tab bar is going to be very simple. So we'll have a background color of colors.white, and we're going to want our left and right border radius to be 20. I believe that's what it was. Let's check it out, 20 and 20. Yep. So border top left radius is going to be 20, and border top right radius is also going to be 20. If we save that, it's kind of hard to tell, but you could see there it's a bit curved on the sides. So that's good to go. Now let's add the actual icons. So to add the icons, let's import React Native vector icons. So here I'm going to import in typo from React Native, I want vector icons / and typo. Save that. And we will go into our screen. So let's start with the first one, and we'll say options. So here we could say tab bar icon, and we could set it to whatever we want. So we could do like this, and then say, and typo. This is going to be name of home, because that's what the icon's called. We'll give it a size of 32. And a color, actually let's not do color yet. Let's save that. Unrecognized font family, not a problem. Let's go up here and typo.load font. Save it, reload, there we go. And we're also going to want to add color to it, right? So now it's showing up as black, but if it's active, we want it as orange. If it's inactive, we want it as gray. So what's cool is we could throw that in here. So color, and then we'll do color is equal to color. Color. Save that, and now it works as we want. So we'll do the same thing for the next two icons. And for this last one, the end typo icons don't actually have an icon for account. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to go import the material community icons. So material community icons, call them material community icons, and paste it in here. Bring that to the left. Now save it. Get the same error as before because we need to load the font. Save that, reload it. There you have it. So the last thing for the Tab Navigator is we're going to want to remove the text so that it shows up like this. And to do that, go back into tab bar options, show label, and we'll set that as false. There you go. We're almost done, guys. One last thing to do is that we want to be able to navigate ourselves to this details page. So to do that, as we said before, that's going to be in the Stack Navigator. So let's copy this screen and we'll call it details. And this is also going to be the details component. But right now we have no way of getting there. So what we're going to do is we'll add a button in Home.js to take us there just to test it out. So let's get navigation from the props. Here, let's put a button. So we'll have text and then a button that on press will navigation.navigate to the details page. So I think the button goes like this, and click me. Must be a string. Let me fix that. So I'm just going to add it as title, and this is click me. Save that. When we click it, it goes to details page, and we can go back. Perfect. So let's jump back to App.js. And one last thing we're going to want to do is remove this header so that we could have our own custom header. So it's really simple. Just go into the stack screens and go options. Header shown is going to be false. And I'll copy this over for the next one as well for the details page. Save that. Now if we click it, it's too high to click, but as we could see, the header is gone and it'll be gone on the details page as well. So that's it for this video for part 1. In part 2, we'll actually be building out the homepage, and then finally part 3, the details page. So stay tuned for that.